ANC has summoned its former president, Jacob Zuma, to appear before a disciplinary hearing on Tuesday. Now, he faces two charges, one for denouncing the leadership and another for pledging his support to the newly formed uMkhonto weSizwe party. Zuma will be the face of the MK party during elections on the 29th of May. Meanwhile, the MK party has vowed to turn out in their numbers to support their leader when he's set to appear at Luthuli House. But let's unpack this. And for that, we are joined by Professor Siphamandla Zondi, who is with the Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation at the University of Johannesburg. Prof, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I think a really good place to start would be this summoning by the ANC of the former president to sit before their disciplinary committee. Is it timeless? Could they have done it earlier?
That's a very, very critical question. When they expressed unhappiness about his announcement way back in December, many thought that they were going to then follow through and act. But they decided that they would act after elections, perhaps thinking that acting on him in the run-up to elections could cause some ructions in certain places, alienate certain voters, or could garner votes for him. I don't know what has changed now that then they decide to actually institute the disciplinary hearing now with just 3 weeks to elections, with the party that he now leads gaining a lot of momentum, and this party gaining a momentum out of almost accidental publicity, and this will give them even more publicity. As you say, they are planning to turn this into rallies near the Luthuli House.
So it's interesting that you say that because there is this expectation that there will be crowds of MK supporters outside Luthuli House. But this is essentially what the ANC has said in their summoning the former president to the disciplinary committee. Should you not appear at the venue on the time and date determined for the hearing, or not avail yourself if the hearing is conducted virtually, or remain in attendance as required by the chair of the National Disciplinary Committee, the chair is satisfied that you were timely notified, and that proceedings will continue in your absence. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is I wanted to ask essentially, if you were President Jacob Zuma, strategically, would you attend?
I would. If I was President Zuma and knowing President Zuma, I would attend. And I would attend, but turn it into a rally, into a mobilization rally. Because victimization or an impression of victimization does give you a lot of traction in South African politics. And that you use those and use those to gather people around, to cast some aspersions on the ANC without saying anything, but make sure people come and create some form of festival. And because that would also create a little bit awkward situation for the ANC. Now I have to think, what are they going to do with all these crowds that are coming around to the house and stuff like that? They force the ANC into thinking whether I should shift this virtually or something. But the letter that was circulating was suggesting that the DC will be sitting physically at the Luthuli House.
Fikile Mbalula, the SG of the party, has talked about the former president, saying that this tactic works for him, this tactic of galvanizing the victim syndrome approach of the former president. Let's talk a little bit about what the implications are for whatever the outcome may be of this committee sitting, right? Should the disciplinary committee decide to expel the former president from the ANC, what are the implications for the governing party?
He can appeal it to the appeals committee just to elongate the process and appeal it to the appeal process. Then this thing goes on a paper and then use it to galvanize more votes. I mean, if you knew former President Zuma, you would know that he knows how to play that game. When he announced in December, he already expected this would happen. So he probably had already worked out what he would do should this happen. And remember, he's been in that party for over 40 years, and he knows exactly how it behaves. And then he knows of virtually everyone who's running it now. He probably would have calculated on what they do. What I find very strange is the ANC behaving like it does not know what was going to happen. Behaving very surprised. I know you're surprised by the announcement in December, and the nature of announcement was such that it was so difficult for the ANC to act, because he was saying, I'm not leaving the ANC, but I'm going to support the other thing. So they had no precedent in dealing with that straddling of positions. And I think he was deliberately putting them in an awkward position, knowing fully well how they're likely to respond. So they're dealing with a kind of a cunning man who's worked his steps down the way. And now as we go into this and we decide to get it to DSC, ultimately only just 30 days to elections, against someone who is now eating out of the votes, at least in 3 provinces. I'm not quite sure how the ANC hope to make something out of this. But having decided to just let go of this and simply assume President Zuma to have left was perhaps a better option, having done it, than to now go back to behave as if he is a member fully, and then now you want to discipline him so that you can expel him.
But do you believe that his expulsion could lead to some sort of exodus? I suppose the question that I'm asking is if you believe that even within the African National Congress, that the former President Jacob Zuma still has some support from the membership.
I think that is what the ANC feared in the first place, which is why I didn't want to go to DC immediately. It was to fear that it might bleed, because there would be many. There's no question about it. The current leadership did not get 80% of the votes in the last Thursday, which means he still commands some support. That support might actually be pushed out by how harshly they act or how they act. I think they wanted to be very careful so that they can keep those up to the election so that they don't bleed anything. And then act anyhow after elections. But now it's decided they might want to do now. Oh, I don't know how they're going to deal with the natural effect with everyone who was expelled from Holomisa all the way to Malema. When they were expelled, they were able to take with them quite a lot of people in that emotional stage and phase of expulsion. They will be the same here, but I guess it will be much bigger here, because this is a man who was able to put in big numbers into the ANC. Now, how are they going to handle it? I wonder.
One last question, Prof, before I let you go. Of course, the ANC has come out saying that it will not allow chaos outside Luthuli House on Tuesday. This is after it has been made quite clear that the MK party will have supporters of former President Jacob Zuma outside Luthuli House as he faces the disciplinary committee. What do you think those images of support outside Luthuli House for the MK party, and perhaps you can share your thoughts on whether or not you think we'll see numbers in support of the ANC outside, but that appearance of the MK party outside Luthuli House, what that says to the electorate?
The MK party itself has said that it was not able to convene its rallies around Gauteng because it was being blocked, because the venues were being booked out in advance. Somehow kind of denied them space. Now this will be the space they've been looking for. So they were kind of a default rally. And the ANC is saying that you don't allow chaos outside its building. It's okay. So if they then gather and they don't do chaos, they just gather and have a rally and have songs and complain about the ANC, it should not be chaos. So it's a difficult one for the ANC. And I wonder, when they were deciding the DC and deciding whether it must be physical and virtual, whether they had realized, they should have realized, that then would become a rally. Everywhere President Zuma has appeared for some form of accounting, it's always brought numbers. The ANC itself used to go to every one of those court cases and use them for mobilization. So they should have known this.
Yeah.
And I think the image, politics about optics a lot. That image of the MK party in their T-shirts, they said they're going to be supplying everyone a T-shirt, and that image will boost their numbers. People are attracted to the optics,
right?
Even if they don't know what the ideas of the parties are.
Yeah. Prof, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for contributing. That way was Professor Siphamandla Zondi from the University of Johannesburg, of course, talking to us about the ANC having called for the former President Jacob Zuma to face the governing party's disciplinary committee on Tuesday. That's 3 days before the Concourt is set to be also seeing the IEC having approached the Concourt on whether or not the former president can stand for candidacy in these elections. So a big week for the former president next week. We'll keep you updated here on Channel 405.